So sort of boat building in general, in terms of the tools, but the boats that used to work down here, the Shropshire Union boats, very slimline boats of course, and Symbol would have been typical of that. When we set off years ago, we wanted to restore Symbol because it was the last surviving narrowboat built in Wales. We didn't achieve that, but we then moved onto Saturn, which was the only other surviving one at the time, and in perpetuity now. All these photographs here are actually the restoration and rebuilding of Saturn, which just explains the process, I think, in the best possible detail.
That was the white van of its day, really, wasn't it, to get stuff around the country on the tightest possible delivery schedule?
It was, and the Shropshire Union, I think, the Shropshire Union Company carried on longer than others, dealing with general cargo. And particularly the overnight delivery. The flyboat service was a timed delivery service, really. The boats went quite fast, but it wasn't the speed at which they went, it was the fact that they went day and night, non-stop, and would be where they said they'd be the following day. So collected in Newtown on one day, and it'll be delivered down to Ellesmere Port ready for export the next day.
The regularity and
reliability of the traffics was key to their I was going to say success. Yes, I think it was successful up to the First World War. Then they got into some difficulties, and they finally gave up carrying in 1921, as you probably know. But partly from traffic falling away, partly from the effects of the war, and partly when a 56-hour week came in as the top thing, and a lot of the boatmen were working longer than that. So suddenly these overnight deliveries weren't possible anymore. So they just gave it up, really.
It's nice to see a bit of colour because generally everything is black and white, but the boatmen like to
the boatmen liked, in particular the Shropshire Union were a fairly austere colour scheme, although again, talking about Jack's autobiography, he talks about the painted ware, anything that the boatmen themselves owned and took to the boat, like the water cans for example, would have been decorated, or the cabin block and extra pieces like that. And of course the by traders, the other companies and anybody that owned their own boat, that's when the decoration tended to be more elaborate, simply because of the pride of ownership, I think. And most of this stuff that's on display is out of my collection and actually comes from, that's a Grand Union cratch board over there from Samuel Barlow's boat. This is a pottery's boat. That, again, it's Grand Union style of paintwork, painting by Dennis Clark. It's actually a mock rudder, it isn't a real one. It was built for a pub in Birmingham, but painted and made by his company. This section's really trying to concentrate more on the quality of the boat life of the people, and of course a lot of that is expressed in the extreme decoration inside of the cabin. The cabins were so small they could only get better by being more and more elaborate, and that became the tradition, I think. Paintwork, yes, on the outside of the boat and the various accoutrements inside, the handball, all the necessaries, decorating, but also other odd traditions, odd I say, not directly related to the boats, like the hanging plates, like the china plates, made in Germany, sold all over the country, but they seem to find a special place in the boat people's way of life, being so intricate and patterned. They could just about be fitted into the cabin in sheets hanging on the cabin side to give you that elaborate decoration.
Now, these all look far too delicate to be on a boat with, sort of crashing into locks and other things.
No, I mean, delicacy, going back to the hanging plates, everything was just as breakable. The Measham ware, the brown ware, nobody's quite sure whether the boat people used them or not. They were transported from the Measham pottery by boat, and they're certainly very favoured nowadays, and it tends to be called in the antique trade barge ware. Whether there's whether there's a real connection or not, I'm not so sure. The white pottery there is just cheap Common Garden Stoke-on-Trent pottery, but of course that's the sort of stuff that was being transported in huge quantities by Canal, and in particular the sort of florid decoration, the quick, cheap commercial decoration is, I think, and this is a personal thing of mine, really related to the same style of paintwork that developed on the tinware that was so significant on the boats. I think the style of decoration is really early Victorian commercialism, but it became very special to the boat people and carried on and became their own pride and joy really into the 20th century.
My choice now. Sorry? Yeah.
I've always been very interested in horses anyway, very concerned that the importance of horse-drawn canal transport was rather overlaid. People have got too excited by engines and motorboats, which of course only really came in the 1920s. Steamboats in the 1880s, well, they have, yes, on the Grand Junction Canal, a few of those, but the vast majority of canal transport was horse-drawn, single horse, single boat, occasionally one horse, two boats even. And that, as people got more and more interested in old engines, this has tended to be rather forgotten. I mean, it carried on being a commercial operation with horses right into the early 1960s.
One horse and one boat is ever so simple. The horse, the tow rope, the boat.
Yes.
In the heyday of the canals, it wouldn't have been like that, would it? The crisscrossing of traffic. How on earth did that work?
Yes, it was complicated because everybody knew what they were doing. The horses knew what to expect, the boatmen knew what to expect, and so this constant passing of traffic became second nature. What was supposed to happen was that always the uphill boat in any direction had right of way over a downhill boat, so that if you were uphill and you've got a horse that would work by itself, you could get on the boat and let the horse get on, because anybody coming the other way had to take charge and lift their line over the horse as it kept plodding by, and then flick it up over the boat. Quite a dangerous practice, but of course they were doing it day in and day out.
Getting back to the Montgomery, it's great to see more activity on this isolated stretch, isn't it, which has been restored for so many years and is so little used.
It's so little used. There's only a little bit more activity, really. The Hewland boats, of course, are the godsend here. Not only do they operate all the time in the middle section, but they're keeping it clear. Either end, I'm afraid, it's really weeded up and really quite difficult to get along when you get out of their regular routes. They've extended their routes this year, as you may know.
I know. Well, I've taken 2 trips down to Bristol,
yes.
And we've had to stop in places. Well, we've been forced to stop in places because there was something underneath.
Right.
Yeah. Tony, it's been great talking to you. Thank you very much for doing this on video.